A funeral? Hare Krishna. Okay. So he's going to be in quarantine again. Sounds like it. Must be. I see. Okay. Oops. Excuse me. All righty. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachadesha Tarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Okay, devotees, so Prabhupada, it's 1969, sort of middle of the year or something like that. 1969, Srila Prabhupada was just in, who can remember? New Vrindavan. Well done. Okay, so anyway, you just sit wherever you like, within reason. You wanted to sit in the comfortable chair instead of the uncomfortable one, is it? I've sat in these chairs before, I know. Anyway, whatever you like. Hare Krishna. So, okay, yes. Prabhupada has just left New Vrindavan, as we were reading last night, amid cries of Hare Krishna and Prabhupada. The car pulled out onto the country highway, and Prabhupada continued chanting Hare Krishna on his beads. Okay. Prabhupada had been hearing regularly from his 6 disciples in London, having little money and living as separate couples in different parts of the city. They found their greatest inspiration in Prabhupada's letters. They would repeatedly read his instructions and dream of when he would one day visit them in London. Although in San Francisco, Krishna consciousness had been fun for the 3 couples, in England it was becoming more and more difficult. The devotees, being foreigners, were not allowed to earn a salary, and except for a few contacts, they knew no one. Although unable to live together, they were trying to maintain their morale and Krishna consciousness. Jamuna. I had to move to a Jamaican ghetto. Wow. The top floor of one of the buildings, it was awful. Day after day after day, I would sit and listen to a tape of Prabhupada singing. It was a beautiful tape he had just done in Los Angeles. And I would pray to him, please come, please come. Mukunda, letters, that's what kept us alive. Prabhupada would write and say, I'm coming. 2 or 3 times he wrote to say, I'm coming by March. And we would write back and say, we wanted to get a place first. We really felt it wouldn't be right for him to come unless we had a place first. He wrote a letter to my wife. I was planning to come by March, but your husband is not allowing me. What can I do? The devotees in London had not seen Prabhupada in 4 months, and still there was no date set for his visit. Although they sometimes became discouraged and talked of going back to America, they persevered. Prabhupada had promised he would come when they got a temple, and that promise helped them remember that they were personally serving him. They felt that he was doing the work, and they were his assistants. His absence was only external. By his instructions, whether written, spoken, or remembered in the heart, he was always with them. He was constantly directing them. I can just mention one experience I had, related experience to some degree. On Janmashtami Day, 1973, Srila Prabhupada was in London, and that day he installed Radha Gokulananda at Bhaktivedanta Manor. I was staying in the city temple, a street called Berry Place, which is the temple they actually got, in fact, just coming up. Right, so Janmashtami, and Prabhupada's installing Radha Gokulananda, and I was in Berry Place Temple, right in the center of London. And of course, everyone wanted to go out from Berry Place to the manor to be with Prabhupada for the installation and Janmashtami and all the excitement. I was what is called temple commander. I don't think we have one, do we? Anyway, temple commander, something like a foreman. You got to run around and get everyone to do what they're meant to do and find people to do things and convince them to do things which aren't being taken care of, that sort of thing. So I was temple commander, and this devotee named Prabhu Vishnu was the president. And he's like, anyway, he's a really nice devotee who I've known and I interact with even now. So he that morning, or maybe the night before, my name in those days was Raghubir Das, not Bhakti Caitanya Swami. That came later. So he said to me, Raghubir, one of us is going to have to stay here tomorrow, Janmashtami, because there will be a program. One of us will have to see the program, that the program goes on. So take a wild guess who had to stay and see that the program went on. I think you've got it. So, it wasn't a big deal, but it's a little disappointing. And he said, we can go out the next day, which was Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja Day, which we did. So anyway, I stayed back and just had to organize everything. And quite a few people came, probably 100 people came to the small temple room. The temple room was no bigger than this. I think probably a bit smaller than this area here. Imagine putting 100 people in. So, yeah, and it was, so, but what happened was that I just, as soon as those who were going to the program at the manor had left, kind of early-ish in the morning, I had to get into action. And I decided, I had read like what we just read now. What was it? That he was always with them. By his instructions, whether written, spoken, or remembered in the heart, he was always with them. He was constantly directing them. So I'd heard that sort of thing said on a number of occasions. I'd been a devotee probably 8 months at that point. So I decided to really focus my mind and just fix my mind on this point, on Prabhupada, and on this point that Prabhupada, the spiritual master, is always with me. He's always with me. So I did that. I really focused my mind. And within, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes or maximum half an hour, probably less, I really just felt that Prabhupada was with me. I really felt that he was with me and that I wasn't alone and that I was empowered by him. It was a very vivid experience. And Krishna consciousness is special like that. It's full of vivid experiences. Yeah. Another experience I had was it was before that, when I just first moved into the temple. And I had got into chanting. I was chanting 16 rounds and really trying to get into it. And then one day, after maybe 2 weeks, I think it was around 2 weeks, I realized, it was such a vivid experience, that all my problems, because I had many anxieties. Wow. Sure. Who am I? What is this world? And how can I find a spiritual master? These things, they just really bothered me. But then I moved in and started chanting, and after about 2 weeks, suddenly I realized those problems have dissolved. They're just not there any longer. And yeah, I'm free. It's okay. Yeah, that was such a vivid experience. It was really good. Really, really wonderful. So Krishna consciousness is full of experiences like that and realizations in the sense of realization, that ideas, concepts become tangible and real and sort of defining in our lives. Okay. While trying out various schemes to popularize Krishna consciousness in London, Shamsundar arranged for a program to which he invited many of London's prominent citizens. About 100 people responded to Shamsundar's formal invitation. One member of parliament, a few government officials, but mostly young people. The devotees served a feast and showed a film of Srila Prabhupada walking by Stowe Lake in Golden Gate Park. Prabhupada had sent a tape recording specifically for the evening, and the devotees highlighted it as the evening's special attraction even though they hadn't had time to hear it in advance. Gurudas started the tape, and suddenly there was Prabhupada's voice. Ladies and gentlemen, please accept my greetings in the happy year of 1969, and blessings of Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for your kindly participating in this happy meeting of Krishna consciousness. Although Prabhupada had recorded the tape in the quiet of his room in Los Angeles, the devotees were astonished to feel Prabhupada's direct presence, preaching Krishna consciousness to the English. Prabhupada continued, Lord Caitanya informed us that the absolute Supreme Personality of Godhead can descend in transcendental sound vibration, and thus when we chant Hare Krishna mantra offenselessly, we immediately contact Krishna and his internal energy. Thus we become immediately purified from all dirty things in our heart. The guests sat listening politely as Prabhupada described the soul's travail of transmigrating from body to body and the path of the soul's liberation through chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna consciousness was, quote-unquote, transcendentally colorful and full of transcendental pleasure. Chanting could be done anywhere, on the street, in the park, or at home. Prabhupada concluded his talk, but to assemble and sit together, we require a place for congregation. Therefore, a temple of the Krishna consciousness movement is required to be established in various centers in the world, irrespective of the particular country's culture, philosophy, and religion. Krishna consciousness is so universal and perfect that it can appeal to everyone, irrespective of his position. Therefore, I fervently appeal to you all present in this meeting to extend your cooperation for successful execution of this great movement. Thanking you once more. There was a pause, and then Prabhupada began playing the harmonium and singing Hare Krishna. Afterward, he again spoke. My disciples in London have very eagerly asked me to visit there, and I'm also very anxious to see you all. So as soon as there's opportunity, I shall go with my Sankirtan party, who are now engaged in Los Angeles, and that will be a great pleasure for you all to meet together. That is all. Only a few weeks after this meeting, the group received their first important publicity. A photo of the 6 devotees in Little Saraswati appeared with an article by the famous columnist Atticus in the Sunday Times. Gurudas was quoted as saying, Hare Krishna is a chant which sets God dancing on your tongue. Try chanting Queen Elizabeth and see the difference. The article described a missionary group from America as very gentle people, a bit unworldly, but not at all ingenuous. Citing their renunciation of illicit sex and intoxication, the article commented, tame, you might think, but they look very well on it, and what's likely to earn them a public is their chanting. Within a few days, the same article appeared in the San Francisco Chronicle, but with a new headline, Krishna Chant Startles London, or Krishna Chants Startle London. Prabhupada was pleased when he saw the headline. Indeed, his Grihasta disciples had succeeded, whereas sannyasi godbrothers had failed. Although several of Prabhupada's scholarly godbrothers had lectured around England over the last 35 years, only one person, an elderly English lady named Elizabeth Bowtell, had shown interest. Yamuna had written Prabhupada to find out if they should visit Mrs. Bowtell. She had received the name Vinod Vani Dasi, and Prabhupada had replied, "The history of this Vani Dasi is that she is an old lady and has a house and has hung a sign, Gaudiya Mat, but that is all." If they liked, Prabhupada had said, they could pay her a courtesy call and see if she would let them use their place for kirtans. One of the men had gone to see her at her home, several hours out of the city, but from behind her closed door she had refused to meet with him unless he brought an introductory letter from the Gaudiya Mat in New Delhi. Vinod Vani Dasi was the fruit of 35 years of sannyasis preaching in England, whereas in 4 months, Prabhupada's young American missionaries were, quote-unquote, startling London. After months of living scattered throughout the city, the devotees met a landlord who allowed them to stay together rent-free in a vacant warehouse at Covent Garden. The devotees improvised a temporary temple and soon recruited their first 3 British devotees. The newcomers at once took to the full Krishna-conscious regimen, including the dhoti and shaved head, and loved it. The devotees, thrilled to see their group expanding and Prabhupada's potency working, decided to phone Prabhupada from their landlord's office. The telephone was a conference phone, and Prabhupada's voice came over the little loudspeaker on the desk. The devotees sat around the desk, listening tensely. "Prabhupada," Mukunda said, "we have some new brahmacharis here." "Oh, are they cooking chapatis?" Prabhupada asked from across the ocean. The devotees laughed uncontrollably, then hushed to hear more. "No," said Mukunda, "but they will be now." The devotees each told Prabhupada how they missed him, and he said that he missed them too, and would come as soon as they could get a place. After allowing the devotees 3 months in the warehouse at Covent Garden, the landlord announced that he needed to use the space and the devotees had to move. The couples moved to 3 separate locations, and again their strong group spirit dissipated. Prabhupada began sending 2 or 3 letters a week to the scattered couples, praising them for their sincere determination. The devotees would gather regularly, if only to show one another their latest letters. Prabhupada wrote to Mukunda of his desire to preach Krishna consciousness in the West, specifically London. Quote, "So far as I'm concerned, I always wish only to expedite my mission of life to spread Krishna consciousness in the western part of the world. I'm still firmly convinced that if I can establish this movement through the help of all the boys and girls who have now joined with me, then it will be a great achievement. I'm an old man, and there's already been warning. But before I leave this body, I wish to see some of you very strong in Krishna consciousness understanding. I'm very glad and proud also that you 6 boys and girls, although you have not been able to establish a nice center in London, still you have done your best. And the news has reached far away in India that my disciples are doing very nice work in Krishna consciousness. So that is my pride. I've received a letter from my godbrother informing me that it has been advertised in India that in Vietnam also somebody is preaching Hare Krishna movement. So there's no need to be disappointed. You go on with your work as best as Krishna gives you the opportunity, and there is no cause of your anxiety. Everything is going smoothly, but since you are now separated, the strength of your activities appears to be a little disturbed. Now you try to assemble together in the same spirit as you are doing, and in that case, temple or no temple, your movement will go on progressively. We are not much concerned about the temple because temple worship is not the primary factor in this age. Primary factor is Sankirtan. But sometimes we want a center where people may gather and see. So a temple is required secondarily. So try your best immediately to live together. I'm very much eager to see that you're again living together. For Srila Prabhupada's disciples, his instruction that they preach in London was much more binding than any other obligations. He was in their hearts, and they thought of him constantly. In carrying out his orders and trying to please him, they were constrained not by force or law, but by love. To please the spiritual master is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And for Prabhupada's sincere disciples, to please him seemed the end in itself. Let's just have a look here. Okay, we'll read a little more. Los Angeles, June 23rd, 1969. After leaving New Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada visited his center in Los Angeles, where he installed deities of Radha and Krishna. Although, as he had told his disciples in London, the primary factor was Sankirtan, still deity worship was also necessary. In his writings, Prabhupada had discussed the need for deity worship, and he had gradually introduced higher and higher standards of deity worship in each of his ISKCON centers. Los Angeles, having become the model ISKCON center, was the natural place for him to introduce a more opulent and demanding standard for worshipping Radha and Krishna. While more than 100 devotees and guests sat in the spacious hall, Prabhupada bathed and dressed the little forms of Radha and Krishna, then placed them on the altar. He was inviting Radha and Krishna to descend, to give his disciples the opportunity to serve them. He was offering his disciples Radha and Krishna with faith that his disciples would not neglect them. If the devotees somehow lost their enthusiasm, Prabhupada explained in his lecture, then the worship would become idol worship. I've mentioned before, I'm sure some of you would have heard, Prabhupada was in Berry Place in London. I had not joined, I was not present. So it was 72. And Prabhupada was giving a class. And I mentioned this, didn't I, a couple of weeks ago? Yeah. And Prabhupada's Vyasasan was right next to the altar, so he could almost lean over and touch the deities. And Prabhupada, at the end of the class, he stopped and he looked at the deities, Radha, London, Ishwara. And he looked at them, they're beautiful deities. And he looked for, I don't know, maybe a minute or something. And everyone was just wondering, wow. Then Prabhupada turned to the devotees and in a very emotional voice, Prabhupada said, what did he say exactly? To the effect, I've brought Radha and Krishna for you. Now, you please take them. Anyway, I forget the exact wording. I'll have to look it up. But yeah. Anyway, yeah. Now you please take them. So Prabhupada said, if there's no life, then it is idol worship. When there is life, feeling, then you think, where is Krishna? Here is Krishna. Oh, I have to serve him. I have to dress him. I have to serve Radharani. She is here. Oh, I just have to do it very nicely. And as far as possible, decorate her to the best capacity. If you think like this, then you are Krishna conscious. But if you think that it's a brass-made doll or idol, then Krishna will reciprocate with you accordingly. If you think that this is a brass-made idol, then it will remain brass-made idol to you forever. But if you elevate yourself to a higher platform of Krishna consciousness, then Krishna, this very Krishna, will talk with you. This Krishna will talk with you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any comment or question? Okay, no problem. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. See you all tomorrow. Thank you, Lakshminath Prabhu. Oh, hang on, this is what Prabhupada said. Looking at Radha Landaneshwara, he became emotional and said, I've captured Krishna. I'm holding him here for you. Now you please come and take him. Hare Krishna. Hmm?